What if one artist could break through every barrier, musical, cultural, even social, just with the sheer power of their voice and, well, an unwavering commitment to a sound so deeply felt it just transcended genre?
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. We're diving into the extraordinary world of Dusty Springfield, a name that pretty quickly became synonymous with blue-eyed soul. You know, that vibrant, heartfelt style where white artists like her really adopted and, frankly, excelled in African-American rhythm and blues and soul traditions. She was a true icon of the British invasion, no doubt. But her influence stretches so much further, leaving this undeniable impact on music history. We've got a fantastic stack of sources today, articles, documentaries, interviews, to give you a really full, vibrant picture of her incredible journey.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is how these sources, they don't just list the hits, they sort of peel back the layers, you know. They reveal the deep passion, the surprising struggles, and the incredible courage behind one of Britain's absolute finest voices. So our mission today really is to distill those vital nuggets of knowledge. We want to help you understand not just what she achieved, which was groundbreaking, but why her specific contributions and choices genuinely mattered, why she stands out.
Exactly, and that's what this deep dive is all about, going beyond just a timeline. We want to unearth those aha moments, show the connections. You're going to come away not just informed, but I think with a deeper appreciation and maybe some truly surprising insights about an artist who was, in so many ways, just decades ahead of her time. So to really get Dusty Springfield, we need to start at the beginning, back to Mary Isabel Catherine Bernadette O'Brien, born April 16, 1939, right there in West Hampstead, London.
And Mary's early life was completely steeped in music. It was foundational, really, thanks largely to her parents. Her father, Gerard Anthony O'Brien, he was a pianist, and he introduced her to this incredible range of sounds: classical, blues, jazz, even Brazilian samba and pop tunes, just everything. And her mother, Catherine Ann, or Kay, she loved cinema musicals. That passion, you can see how it probably nurtured Mary's dramatic flair, her vocal expressiveness, things that became Dusty's hallmarks later on.
Right. So music wasn't just background noise. It
Wow.
was like in her DNA from the start. And by 13, she's already experimenting with her brother, Dionysius. Our sources actually confirm there are surviving records from back then. Just amazing. But her first sort of professional step was joining the Lana Sisters in 58. That was with Iris Long and Lynn Abrams. She even used a stage name then, Shan. They signed to Fontana, put out singles like Mr. DJ, My Mother's Eyes. It might seem like a small start, but that experience, performing, harmonizing, navigating the music biz, that was crucial early stuff.
It laid important groundwork. But the real transformation, the moment Mary O'Brien really started finding her artistic identity, that kicked off around 1960. That's when she joined her brother Dionysius, who was then known as Tom Springfield and Tim Field. They formed the folk pop trio, the Springfields, and that's when Mary O'Brien officially became Dusty Springfield. Our sources paint this really interesting picture of her early persona, apparently quite shy, maybe a bit insecure offstage, but in the studio or performing, she was an absolute musical perfectionist. That drive, getting every note just right, sometimes tough for collaborators, sure, but it later earned her that affectionate, maybe sometimes exasperated diva title. It's quite a journey, isn't it? From this quiet, disciplined Catholic girl to this powerhouse vocalist.
Absolutely incredible, that evolution. And the Springfields, they weren't just a stepping stone. They were a big deal in their own right. They had this really diverse approach, jumping between genres, which was pretty unusual then, even singing in Spanish. Showed their range. They had UK hits, Breakaway, Bambino, Say I Won't Be There, catchy stuff. But crucially, they reached America too. Silver Threads and Golden Needles. That was a top 20 hit on Billboard in '62. And this wasn't just a chart position. It was her first real taste of the American market. It meant travel, recording in Nashville, and you can almost see the light bulb go off in the sources. This is when she finds her artistic core, just completely captivated by Motown, by American R&B, that soulful sound. It changed everything for her.
And that immersion was absolutely critical. It wasn't just, a passing interest. That whole experience became the bedrock for her solo career. It transformed her voice, her approach, and set her on this path that would totally redefine her place in music, globally, not just in the UK.
And what a path. Okay, this next phase, this is where her story gets really, really interesting. Dusty, having found that authentic voice, that soul sound, makes the bold move. She launches her solo career in 1963. Leaving a successful group, that's always a risk, right? But wow, did it pay off fast.
Oh, almost immediately.
Yeah.
And hugely impactful. Her very first single, I Only Want to Be With You, released in '63, written by Michael Hawker and Ivor Raymond, bang, smash hit. Number 4 in Britain, number 12 in the US, which is impressive. And what's insightful here, the Beatles are storming America with rock and roll, but Dusty's quietly, powerfully opening a different kind of door for sophisticated, soulful British female vocalists. She showed American audiences wanted more than just the British invasion sound. They wanted a British voice that got American R&B. It broadened the whole idea of what a British artist, especially a woman, could bring. Paved the way, really. And that track, I Only Want to Be With You, fun fact, it was covered later by the Tourists pre-Eurythmics.
Huh. Right, connecting the dots. And she just kept the hits rolling, working with brilliant songwriters who really got her voice back with Hawker and Raymond for Stay a While, Showed a Range, then her work with Burt Bacharach and Hal David. I mean, iconic. Wishing and Hoping, just so catchy. Her cover of Anyone Who Had a Heart, wow, just stunningly emotional. Even gave Dionne Warwick's version a run for its money. And I just don't know what to do with myself. So poignant. These weren't just pop songs. They were like mini-dramas she owned completely. And of course, 1967, The Look of Love, timeless, sultry, sophisticated, that cemented her as a global star.
Definitely. But her prominence wasn't just the voice, magnificent as it was. It was her pioneering spirit, her cultural footprint. And it raises that question, how much did Dusty really open the door for other UK artists beyond just chart success? Well, our sources point to huge influence. Tom Jones, Engelbert Humperdinck, they admired her openly. Later generations too, Elvis Costello, Elton John, they revered her artistry. Plus, she was a host on Ready, Steady, Go, that massive British pop show from 63 to 66, hosted early episodes, and get this, famously interviewed the Beatles on their first ever UK TV appearance, October 63. Landmark moment. Imagine them doing Twist and Shout, I'll Get You, She Loves You, live on her show. And an interesting side note, Michael Lindsay Hogg, who directed on RSG, also directed the Beatles' Let It Be film later. It was all interconnected back then.
It's those connections, her being everywhere, that really show her impact, doesn't it? And beyond the British invasion success, Dusty wasn't just singing soul music. She was like living it, advocating for it. She actively championed it to a British audience who might not have heard much of it otherwise.
Precisely. She played this crucial role, almost like an ambassador for Motown in the UK. April 28th, 1965, she hosted a groundbreaking TV special, part of Ready, Steady, Go, all about Motown artists. Imagine the impact. The Supremes, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, the Temptations, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, Marvin Gaye, the Earl Van Dyke Sextet, all performing on British TV, many for the first time, because Dusty pushed for it. It was a cultural moment. We should also touch on a label sometimes applied to her back then, which sounds controversial now, the White Negress. Cliff Richard used it. It was in a Record Mirror headline in 63. Our sources explain it wasn't malicious, more, well, a clumsy attempt to describe her deep connection to Black American soul and R&B. She didn't just sing the notes, she felt it. She embodied it in a way few white artists had before.
It really shows that deep dedication, her integrity. But beyond the music, Dusty used her fame for something much bigger, that powerful, risky stance against apartheid.
Yes, this was absolutely defining. Her South African tour, 1964, she put an anti-apartheid clause right in her contract, refused point blank to play to segregated audiences. The government pressured her, big time, huge financial risk too, but she and her manager just wouldn't budge. Principle, and the consequence. She was basically forced to leave South Africa after just one show, deported for her stand. If you put that in context, I mean, that was incredibly brave. Very few artists were doing that then, risking her career at her peak for a moral cause. It showed this depth of character way beyond just being a pop star, a real artist with a conscience.
Astounding courage. And it clearly didn't stop her musically. Dusty just kept making hits, pushing boundaries, incredible resilience after something like that.
Absolutely. Her career just kept going. Hits like Losing You, You're Hurting Kinda Love, In the Middle of Nowhere, all showcasing that emotion. Then, 1966, worldwide acclaim for that majestic ballad, You Don't Have to Say You Love Me. #1 UK, top 5 US. That song just demonstrated her power, infusing that soaring melody with such deep feeling. She also had UK top 10 success with All I See Is You, working with Ben Wiseman and Clive Westlake. Her albums from this time, like Where Am I Going? It had her great version of If You Go Away, the Jacques Brel song. And appearing on the Corrupt Ones soundtrack, she was consistently showing this artistic breadth most pop stars just didn't have.
And then came,
Yeah.
well, a true masterpiece. A recording that wouldn't just define her vocal mastery, but would, looking back, redefine her entire legacy.
Exactly. 1968, pivotal move, signing with Atlantic Records, which led to her going down south to record the album that became Dusty in Memphis, released in '69. Working with legends Jerry Wexler, Tom Dowd, Reef Martin, she really immersed herself in Southern soul. But what makes it a masterpiece, beyond just the sound, is her vocal performance. It's incredibly nuanced. She often holds back, sings softer, more intimately. It lets the emotion, the brilliant songs, just shine. Tracks like Son of a Preacher Man, written by John Hurley and Ronnie Wilkins, became massive worldwide, famously used later in Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, which, amazingly, earned her first and only platinum record decades later. That track was even sampled by Cypress Hill hits from the Bong. Shows its lasting cultural cool, right? For many, Windmills of Your Mind on that album is another standout, just genius interpretation. Now, it struggled commercially at first, maybe poor promotion in the US, but looking back, Dusty in Memphis is hailed as one of the greatest albums ever, a masterclass. Around this time, too, she did beautiful duets with Charles Aznavour, blending French and English, just showing her range again.
So after conquering the British invasion, delivering soul masterpieces, what happens next? The 1970s brought huge changes in music, and for Dusty, some significant challenges, both personal and professional.
Yeah, 70 saw her keep working. Albums like A Brand New Me in 1970, collaborating with Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, tapping into that lush Philly soul sound, very distinctive early 70s vibe, also from Dusty with Love that year. But, tastes were shifting, her commercial success started to dip, and our sources paint a picture of an artist really grappling with things, not just musical trends, but big internal and external pressures. She moved to the US, New York, then LA, signed with ABC Dunhill. She even worked on an album Longing in 74, which eventually came out later as Beautiful Soul. And interestingly, during this time, she sometimes used the pseudonym Gladys Thong as a backing vocalist.
Gladys Thong, really?
Yeah. For artists like Madeline Bell, Kiki D, and Murray on I Just Fall in Love Again, even Elton John on Tumbleweed Connection and Caribou, using a pseudonym like that, it maybe speaks to wanting anonymity or feeling a bit lost creatively during a tough time, because this era, sadly, was marked by deep personal struggles. Issues with drugs, mental illness, navigating her sexuality. She openly said she was attracted to both men and women. These challenges, plus some toxic industry environments, they really impacted her career, her finances, her health. Her talent got a bit overshadowed by her battles for a while.
Wow, that sounds incredibly difficult. A really isolating time. A lesser artist might have just disappeared. But Dusty Springfield was absolutely not one to be counted out. Her story is also one of incredible reinvention. And the 80s proved she still had so much more to give.
Indeed. The 80s found her exploring again, bravely trying out new wave, synth pop, rock sounds, trying to adapt. Her album White Heat had collaborations with Sting, Carol Tope. Critics actually praised its adventurousness, her powerful vocals, even if it wasn't a huge seller, showed she was still pushing. She also did singles like Something in Your Eyes with Richard Carpenter, more classic ballad territory, showcasing that timeless vocal elegance.
But the biggest comeback moment, the really seismic shift, that was still ahead, a partnership that just catapulted her back into the global spotlight, introduced her to a whole new generation.
That has to be the Pet Shop Boys collaboration. Iconic. Apparently, she was a bit reluctant at first, wary of being seen as just a nostalgia act, But Christopher Sean Lowe and Neil Tennant contacted her. They wanted her voice for a duet. The result, What Have I Done to Deserve This? Released in 1987 on their album, Actually, monumental for her career, massive worldwide hit, #2 UK, big in the US charts. It wasn't just a hit, it was this brilliant artistic reinvention. The Pet Shop Boys adored her, wrote it for her. It blended her classic soulfulness with their cool contemporary synth pop. It just worked perfectly. It let her present herself completely fresh to a younger audience, bridged that generational gap, proved her appeal was timeless.
What an amazing, totally deserved comeback. And she carried that momentum right into the 90s. Some fantastic final artistic statements. Her Reputation album in 1990, loads of Pet Shop Boys input that really brought her back to that 60s level of glory. I love Daydreaming, where she actually raps, Dusty Springfield rapping, and the sophisticated Nothing Has Been Proved. Just a triumph. Then in 95, kind of unexpectedly, she goes country with A Very Fine Love, recorded in Nashville, fittingly. Full circle almost. But sadly, this period also coincided with her battle with breast cancer, which, despite treatment, tragically came back in 96, even as she kept working.
Dusty Springfield passed away on March 2nd, 1999. She was just 59, died in Henley-on-Thames. She had a Catholic funeral. And in a really touching gesture, her brother Dionysius fulfilled her last wish, scattered some of her ashes off the cliffs of Moher in Ireland, a place she loved. Just 2 weeks after she died, she was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Elton John, who adored her, helped with the induction, famously called her a songwriter-singer and, well, the greatest white singer there ever has been. Every song she sang, she claimed as her own. Powerful words. And her legacy is cemented by so many other awards, too. NME Awards, Brit Awards, Grammy Hall of Fame inductions for Dusty in Memphis, Give Me Time, The Look of Love. She's truly irreplaceable.
What a life, what a voice, and what an incredible impact. From Mary O'Brien, that shy girl from West Hampton, to the absolute legend Dusty Springfield, we've really unpacked the story of musical versatility, social courage, and just sheer artistic resilience.
Yeah, and if you think about the bigger picture, her journey really shows us the power of authenticity and reinvention. Her commitment to soul, her fearlessness in crossing genres, those moral stands she took, it left this indelible mark, not just on music, but on culture. She didn't just follow trends, she often set them. And sometimes, bravely, she just defied the world around her.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Maybe reflect on Dusty's remarkable ability to constantly evolve her sound, to bridge those generational gaps with her voice, and to stand firm in her beliefs, even when it was really costly, personally and professionally. How does an artist like her inspire us, maybe, to find our own soul, that authentic core, and maybe empower us to stand up for what's right, even when the world pressures us to conform? What new insights did this deep dive spark for you about art, integrity, and making a timeless impact?